Imagine this. In the morning, you have a whole barn, and by noon, it's a pile of rubble. My barn wasn't just a building. It was a cozy home for my goats, chickens, and 2 cheeky pigs. Now it had turned into a heap of splinters, and my animals wandered the yard like tourists abandoned in the middle of a desert. And at the center of this chaos was a single name, Karen, self-proclaimed queen of the HOA, the sleepless ruler of the rulebook, and, as it turned out, the destroyer of my farming pride. It all started that morning when I got back from the fair. My truck still smelled like donuts, lottery loss, and a hint of goat feed. I rumbled up the dusty road, dreaming only of a cold beer and a nap under the old oak tree. Maybe scratch Freckles behind the ear and laugh at how my chickens strutted around like they thought they were serious dinosaurs. The simple joys of life. But the moment I turned toward the pasture, the world, I swear, froze, like someone hit the pause button on my life. The barn was gone, vanished. All that remained was a patch of bare earth, a few boards, and the look of a demolition job gone wrong, like Bob the Builder went on a bender and showed up with a bulldozer. I slammed the brakes, jumped out of the truck, my heart pounding so loud it was drumming in my ears like a rock concert. Freckles bleated loud enough for the whole county to hear. The chickens darted around like they were being chased by a demon. Biscuit, my pig, sniffed the debris like he was starring in an episode of House Hunters Barn Edition. And then I saw her, Karen Pritchard, standing there by the remains of my barn, clipboard in hand, rhinestone-studded sunglasses glinting so bright you could probably see them from the moon. And if you don't know who Karen is, lucky you. She's the kind of woman who'd call the cops over an unofficially gray trash can. Her hairstyle could survive a tornado and the truth at the same time. Her manicure is so bright, it could signal SOS. And there she was, smiling at me like a kid who broke a vase and was trying to convince you it was modern art. "Oh, Ryan," she chirped, her voice sweeter than synthetic honey. "You're back so early. I left you a note." She pointed at a soggy piece of paper pinned down by a rock, right on top of the wreckage. A note. On the ruins of a building. I clenched my fists. "You tore down my barn." Karen smiled again, like I'd asked her to like another picture of her dog. "Technically, Ryan, it was an illegal structure. It existed before the HOA was formed. It disrupted the visual harmony. I had to act. For the common good, of course. Without my permission?" I barely managed to keep my voice steady. "Without any warning?" She shrugged, like she was explaining why she microwaved a cat. "The architectural committee voted unanimously. By the way, I am the committee." Of course she was. "But don't worry," she trilled. "I already found some contractors. We can build something nice, maybe beige. Beige is very trendy right now." I couldn't speak, couldn't even think. That barn was the heart of my land, built by my grandfather, weathered through storms, loved by pigs, and now wiped off the earth. Karen patted my arm as if nothing had happened. "Be grateful, Ryan. We're increasing property values. You'll thank me later." And then she buzzed off in her golf cart like the queen of chaos she was. I stood there in the dust while my animals milled around me, and inside my chest, a storm was brewing. Karen thought that was the end of it. Karen thought she had destroyed a barn? She had no idea who she had just awakened. If she wanted a war, she was about to get one. And it would be a war she'd remember long after her clipboard was buried under the dust of history. I didn't move for a long while after Karen zipped away from the crime scene in her golf cart, like it was an autopiloted jet. Her little motor buzzed like a mosquito, shouting into a megaphone. I just stood there in the rubble, while dust slowly settled on my boots, and my heart was pounding so hard it felt like I'd swallowed the school marching band's bass drum. It was like one of those nightmare days. You get fired, your girl dumps you, and the AC breaks, all at once. Except I wasn't waking up, and my barn was gone. Freckles, my goat, nudged my knee with her nose, like, "Hey boss, you still with us?" I scratched behind her ear and whispered, "I promise you, Freckles, this ain't over." Fueled by the fire in my chest, I marched up the hill, straight toward Karen's lair. And honestly, if smoke had been pouring from my ears, nobody would have blinked. I was a bearded volcano on the verge of eruption. Karen's house looked like someone asked an AI to design the perfect suburban luxury mashup. Fake stone columns, plastic shutters that don't open, and a lawn so chemically bright it could double as a lighthouse. I didn't ring the bell. No. I slammed my fist on the door, so hard her little live, laugh, love wreath trembled like even life was filing a complaint. Karen answered the door with a smile stretched tighter than pantyhose over a bowling ball. She held a glass of pink lemonade like I'd dropped by for a Sunday brunch. "Ryan," she chirped, "what a delightful surprise. You have to try my lemon bar's secret ingredient." I prayed it wasn't poison. I didn't even blink. "You demolished my barn," I said, flat and cold. She sighed the way people do and asked, "Why can't I keep a crocodile in the bathtub?" "Ryan, sweetheart, that structure was, well, visually alarming. You could see it from the road. It was upsetting the aesthetic of our perfect neighborhood." I squinted. "You mean it messed up your Instagram shots with lavender and overpriced lattes?" Karen laughed. That hollow, soulless chuckle you can probably hear in hell. The kind that says, "I'm only smiling because I'm supposed to." "We have standards, Ryan. Section 5, Article C, visual harmony promotes spiritual and financial growth," she recited like she was quoting scripture from the HOA Bible. I stepped closer. "You had no right. My grandfather built that barn. It sheltered animals, and you tore it down. No hearing, no permission, nothing." Karen's smile twitched, just a hair, but I saw it. A crack in her lacquered, hypocritical armor. "You can call the county if you want," she tossed out casually, like an invitation to tea. "I already cleared it with Officer Daniels. It's all taken care of." Her voice was so slick, I felt like I needed to clean my ears after hearing it. "So you think just knowing one guy in uniform means you can flatten whatever you don't like?" Karen fluttered her eyelashes so hard the air practically crackled with plastic. "Ryan, you're just emotional. The committee approved it. And as you already know, I am the committee. This wasn't just arrogance. This was a plan. Calculated, conniving, and frankly, very Karen. She wanted a world where everything matched her idea of harmony. Identical flower beds, identical houses, and most of all, no freckles. But she made one mistake. She picked the wrong farmer. I turned and walked away, my boots crunching on the gravel like thunderous applause from the sky. A plan was already forming in my head. It was brewing, twisting, coming together with every step. This wouldn't be a complaint, wouldn't be a letter. No, this would be a show. Poetic, epic, biblical if need be. By the time I reached my porch, the plan was fully cooked. Simple, brilliant. And when I told Freckles, she let out the happiest bleat I'd ever heard. Because if Karen thought my barn was ugly, she hadn't seen a farm on her lawn. I didn't have to wait long. Exactly 2 days later, Karen's golf cart disappeared down the road, leaving behind a cloud of dust and her clipboard bouncing on the seat like a co-pilot on a one-way trip to hell. Neighbors whispered. Karen had gone to the annual HOA summit in Birmingham, seminars about hedges, a mailbox workshop, a party themed around fence colors. I couldn't have asked for a better moment. I pulled on my work boots, grabbed my old shepherd staff, the same one I used to chase geese out of people's pools, and whistled. All right, ladies, showtime. Freckles came first, a goat with the discipline of a marshal and a taste for roses. She nudged me like a general signaling the charge. Right behind her trotted Dolly, the chicken who thought she was head of security. Then came Bacon and Biscuit, my twin pigs, fans of mud and mischief. Even Mr. Pickles, the old rooster with more arthritis than feathers, gave a crow that sounded like a battle cry. With a little corn and a few apple slices, my ragtag army was assembled within half an hour. The target, Karen's pristine lawn, green as a dollar bill, flat as a corporate spreadsheet, and the moment Freckles' hoof touched her perfect carpet of Kentucky bluegrass, chaos erupted. It was like someone let a preschool loose on a wedding cake. Freckles went straight for the hydrangeas, the ones Karen cultivated by the lunar cycle. Dolly, like a steroid-fueled Roomba, dove into the flower beds, probably digging for treasure. Bacon and Biscuit discovered her koi pond and instantly decided it was their new mud spa retreat. And Mr. Pickles? He climbed onto the swing and crowed like he was announcing Independence Day from Karen. I had to cover my mouth to keep from laughing loud enough to blow the whole operation. Before leaving, I'd hidden a security camera in Mrs. Tinsley's hedge. Wide-angle, 4K, night vision. Public humiliation mode engaged. Perfect. I opened the app on my phone, crouched behind a bush, and waited. Not long. Within the hour, the familiar mosquito buzz returned. Karen was coming home, like a general returning from the lavender front lines. I hit record. Her golf cart skidded to a halt. Karen leapt out, all sunglasses, handbag, and her ever-ready battle clipboard. And then she froze. Just locked up like bad Wi-Fi. Her brain took a solid 5 seconds to process what she was seeing. Her lawn, a war zone. Her roses, goat gum. Her welcome mat, under a chicken doing a tax on it. Her pond, now a pig-powered spa. Karen let out a noise, like someone sat on a balloon mid-inflation. The clipboard flew from her hands and landed smack in a puddle of pig muck. And then she snapped. "No! Get off my lawn! Out! Out!" she screeched, arms flailing like emergency sirens in a soap opera. Freckles, as if on cue, calmly dropped a steaming pile right on her spotless stone walkway. I inhaled sharply and nearly choked, holding back my laughter. Karen grabbed her phone, jabbing the screen like she was calling in an airstrike. Then she tried to chase Bacon with her designer purse, only for Biscuit to cannonball into the pond and drench her in a tsunami of swampy water. I almost lost it, clenched my fist, bit my lip. This was performance art. Mr. Pickles knocked over a flower pot. Freckles climbed onto the swing. Dolly chased Karen down the walkway like a feathered demon from a poultry-themed horror movie. It was chaos. It was glory. It was revenge worthy of folk songs. And the best part? This was only the beginning. Karen finally got someone on the line, or at least she thought she did. Probably some secret HOA 911 hotline, because she was shrieking into the phone like she was summoning a squad of exorcists. She was storming across the yard, flailing her arms like an auctioneer selling rage instead of antiques. And me? I was sitting in the shade of Mrs. Tinsley's camellias, sipping sweet tea straight from the bottle and enjoying the best reality show ever to air live on my block. 15 minutes later, the cavalry arrived. A siren flashed, tires screeched, and a sheriff's cruiser rolled onto Karen's driveway. 2 county deputies stepped out, eyeing her lawn like it was either a crime scene or a tailgate party on steroids. Karen raced toward them, powered by pure emotional combustion. "Officers, arrest him immediately!" she screeched, waving her clipboard like it was a holy warrant. One deputy, a guy built like my old barn, calmly pulled out a notepad. "And who exactly are we arresting, ma'am?" Karen whipped around and jabbed a finger in my direction, because by then, I'd already stepped out from behind the bushes. Slow, dramatic, still sipping tea, smiling like a cowboy in the final scene of a Western. "Him! He destroyed my property! With goats! He's terrorizing me!" The sheriff turned to me. "Sir, what's going on here?" I nodded, calm as a man holding a royal flush, a chicken, and a couple of pigs. "Good afternoon. It's simple. While I was away, this woman here demolished my barn. No notice, no permits, just rolled in and flattened my family's legacy. Karen gasped, like I'd slapped her with a wet fish. That's a lie. It was an ugly barn. I had full approval from the HOA committee. The other deputy, a woman in mirrored sunglasses with the face of someone who's seen it all, and worse, asked flatly, "And you, ma'am, are the whole committee?" Karen blinked, then blinked again. She froze. "Well, technically, I am the committee." The deputies exchanged a look, the kind that says, "This is gonna be good." I pulled out my phone. Here's a photo of the barn, built in 1956. My granddad raised it, stood strong, like a mother-in-law in an argument. And here's what it looked like after my trip, flatter than a pancake at a shotgun wedding. The deputy gave a low whistle. The female officer jotted something in her notepad. "And you say she had no permit?" I nodded. Karen started spiraling. "But I talked to Officer Daniels. He said it was fine. He said—" "Ma'am," the sheriff cut in, "there is no Officer Daniels in this county." Dead silence. Even Freckles stopped chewing to let the moment land. Karen opened her mouth, closed it, opened again, made a sound like a dying washing machine stuck on spin. The female deputy shut her notepad. "Ma'am, demolishing private property without a court order is a serious offense. We'll need you to come with us for questioning." Karen's face crumbled into emotions. Horror, offense, but I'm the queen, and oh no, I'm wearing old sneakers. "But I was improving the community," she wheezed. "Not your property, not your decision," the deputy replied calmly. And just like that, Karen, in all her sparkling glory, was escorted down the driveway and into the back seat of a police cruiser. She sat quietly. Her clipboard lay abandoned on the pavement. Lonely, forgotten, a symbol of a fallen regime. And there I stood, surrounded by my animals, sweet tea bottle in hand, grinning a grin no dentist could scrub off. The deputies even let me film her getting into the car. "For documentation," they said. I almost replied, "For TikTok." It was a masterpiece. And the best part? Court was still coming. And Karen had no idea just how far off script things were about to go. The county courthouse in our town isn't the kind of place where justice comes wrapped in marble and velvet. It's more like an old brick box that smells like mildew, burnt coffee, and disappointment. But that day, it felt like an arena, a gladiator coliseum. Only instead of lions, we had Karen. I was seated in the front row, boots polished to a mirror shine, hands folded, face calm. Though I'll admit, I was burning a little on the inside. Karen sat up front like a concrete statue, dressed in a beige suit the color of off-brand vanilla pudding. Her lawyer, a guy with a tired expression of "I don't get paid enough for this," was feebly flipping through papers. Judge Whitmore, a burly man with eyebrows like two angry squirrels, opened the session. His gavel hit the desk with the force of a Mortal Kombat final round bell. Karen's lawyer went first. He adjusted his tie, pulled out some glossy HOA brochures, and launched into a speech about aesthetic standards, stylistic cohesion, and visual harmony to enhance property values. Karen nodded so hard, I feared her neck or her hairspray helmet might snap. Finally, when he finished, the judge turned to me. "Mr. Carson, your response?" I stood up, cleared my throat, and spoke plainly. "Your Honor, that barn was part of my family farm, built in 1956 by my grandfather. Karen Pritchard had it demolished without notice, without permission, and without any legal right." The room went still. Someone even stopped chewing gum. Karen twitched like a fish yanked out of a filtered tank. I added, "And by the way, I'm not even a member of the HOA." That was the knockout punch. The courtroom rustled with shock. The judge leaned forward and steepled his fingers. "Miss Pritchard, Are you seriously suggesting that your HOA bylaws override constitutional property rights? Karen jumped to her feet without being asked. Absolutely, Your Honor. We all must uphold the standards. That barn was an eyesore. It lowered market values. The judge raised a single eyebrow. It said nothing, but we all heard it. Did you seriously just say that? Miss Pritchard, he asked, did you have a court order to remove the structure? No, but a notice with a deadline for removal? Well, Mr. Carson's consent? Karen blinked, then muttered, it was implied. The courtroom let out a collective ooh. Even the bailiff rolled his eyes. The judge sighed like a man who's heard this nonsense in real life and once in a dream. In the state of Tennessee, he said, private property is protected by law, and you don't get to assume consent to demolish someone's legacy just because you don't like the shade of red. Thwack! The gavel slammed. Karen flinched. This court finds you guilty of destroying private property. She went pale. I mean boiled rice pale. And the judge wasn't done. You are hereby ordered to pay full restitution for the structure, temporary housing for the animals, and emotional damages. He flipped through his documents. Total amount? $87,500. Karen made a sound like a mix between oh no, ouch, and my credit card's about to combust. Her lawyer slumped into his chair like mashed potatoes that lost the will to live. I simply tipped my hat. Thank you, Your Honor, I said, though I was about 2 beats from doing a jig down the aisle. Karen attempted a final plea. But I was just trying to improve the neighborhood. I was acting for the community. I was trying. This is not about your intentions, the judge cut her off. This is about the law and consequences. Thwack! One last slam of the gavel. Case closed. And you know what the best part was? Not even the $87,000 check. It was the fact that Karen, our clipboard-wielding dictator, wasn't taken down by fists or Facebook rants or shouting matches, but by the law and good old-fashioned common sense. Now, our neighborhood breathes easier. No more extra rules, no more beige mandates, and no more Karen. Word spread through Maple Hollow faster than bacon grease in a kitchen with no vent. I hadn't even parked my truck yet when the looks started. Those looks that say, we saw the video, and we applauded. Karen Pritchard, the iron-fisted queen of the HOA, the gatekeeper of standards, the tyrant with a clipboard, had fallen. And not just fallen, spectacularly, officially, publicly. First went her title. At the next HOA meeting, which she didn't even bother to attend, she was unanimously removed from every position. No more badges, no more clipboard of doom that even the trees feared. Then her friends vanished. The ones who used to cling to her like cat hair on a black sweater suddenly had errands, business trips, weekend getaways, and disappeared completely from her life. Her house, that perfect plastic columned palace, became the loneliest building in the county. Then the sign appeared, for sale, big, red, screaming, planted right in the middle of her proud lawn, the same one that used to have a banner reading HOA members only. Karen didn't even try to save face. She sold it cheap and disappeared faster than a possum hearing a barking dog. Rumor had it she moved to a town where the HOA rules were even stricter. Honestly, that sounds like her own personal hell. And me? I had other things to worry about, like building a new barn. The $87,500 check showed up 3 days later, right in the mailbox that, by the way, still didn't meet HOA standards. And I had no plans to change it. My neighbors and I got to work. The new barn took a month. It came out stronger, taller, storm-proof, criticism-proof, even Karen-proof. Plenty of space for everyone. Freckles, Biscuit, Bacon, Dolly, and even a couple of stray ducks who moved in for no reason. We named them Chuck and Norris. We painted it bright red, so red that if Karen glanced at it from her new town, her eye would twit. And on the day we finished, the neighbors threw a party. No invites, no HOA approvals, no permits for the paper tablecloths. People brought casseroles, burger skillets, lemonade in buckets, and handmade signs. One read, "Real freedom smells like fresh paint." Another, "Ditch the clipboard, long live the barn." Mr. Tinsley grilled burgers on the same grill Karen once called an excessive heat source. Kids climbed fences like they were dream castles. Someone hooked up a Bluetooth speaker and blasted Johnny Cash so loud, even the fireflies started dancing. At one point, old Mrs. Davidson, the same woman who used to whisper Karen's praises like the bushes could tattle, raised her glass and toasted, "To Ryan Carson, the man who beat the clipboard." Everyone laughed. They clapped me on the back so hard, I almost fell into the coleslaw bowl. I just raised my glass. To barns, to goats, to stubbornness. And to neighbors who know when it's time to say enough. It wasn't loud, it wasn't flashy, but it was honest. And honesty, that's what Maple Hollow had been missing for years. As the sun dipped low, painting the sky in shades of peach and raisin, I stood by the new barn, listening to laughter, conversation, and the sounds of real life. Peace had returned. Not that fake, tight-lipped, rulebook peace, but real peace. Ours. And just before I went inside, I noticed someone had nailed a little sign to the barn. Crooked, but full of soul. It read, "Private property. Clipboards not allowed." I laughed so hard Freckles ran up to me, bleeding in alarm. I patted her head, gave her a handful of feed, and whispered, "We did it, girl." Because now I knew one thing for sure. A new era had begun in Maple Hollow. And if any new Karen ever shows up thinking she can run the place, she'll quickly learn that clipboards don't hold much power around here anymore. If you enjoyed this story, please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. We also recommend checking out the story about how Karen ruined one man's 8-year-old son's birthday and how he came up with the perfect revenge plan. You have to see it. Just click the icon the arrow is pointing to. Thank you for watching.